no regrets, no confusion. There'll be no pollution. I'm so thankful I've decided to change my ways.
Welcome back to the Leaving Eden podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Gabrielle Hacohen. I'm here with my BFF and co-host, cult expert, cult survivor, Sadie Carpenter. How you feeling today, Sadie?
Getting better and better. We are getting there.
That's awesome. You sound much like you're filled with relief, like your life is less stressful than it was a month ago. And I
think almost anything would be less stressful than a month ago.
It's true. Today, we're talking about Brittany Dawn. Brittany Dawn is a former / still fitness influencer turned Christianity and Christian womanhood influencer / fitness influencer. We're going to talk about her predatory business practices. We're going to talk about the fraud lawsuit against her that was settled with the state of Texas, and her attempt to use a conversion to Pentecostal Christianity as a way to shield herself from criticism and also as a way to grift more money.
This is we thought this was going to be a deep dive, and then as we did a deep dive level of research, we realized that a true deep dive on Brittany Dawn could be an entire podcast in and of itself. So this is more of what I'd like to think of as a comprehensive overview, because similar to Jill Rodriguez, Brittany Dawn has done so many absolutely wild things in less than a decade that she has been a public figure. And she has been extensively covered by everybody from Fundy Fridays to BuzzFeed. But where we come in is our personal expertise, talking about what we know. Gavi, you're a big gym guy. You do fitness stuff.
I mean, I go to the gym. I'm not like a bodybuilder or anything like that. I just...
Right, but enough to know, when she's correct and when she's talking BS.
Yeah.
And I'm an expert on evangelicalism and Christian grifts. So we're going to cover the great snarkable moments. Don't worry, we're going to get all of the snark moments that we can fit into this episode. But we're also going to go from our experience and what we know and apply those things to this story.
But before we get into that, the Leaving Eden podcast is the podcast about my BFF and co-host, Sadie Carpenter's life in and escape from the independent fundamental Baptist cult, the cult in which she was raised. We talk about this cult. We talk about other cults. We talk about religion. We talk about fundamentalism. We talk about the real and present threat that cults and cult ideologies pose to society as a whole. And it is our goal to promote freedom of mind, freedom of thought, and freedom of religion. So if you like our show, if you're a fan of our show, you can subscribe to our Patreon, where you will get an extended version of today's episode. I think our Google Doc for this episode ended up being close to 10,000 words. So not everything that we want to talk about is going to end up in the main episode.
Yeah.
It's so we have to cut some stuff. So if you want to hear the extended version of today's episode, as well as the extended version of our other episodes, you can subscribe to our Patreon. And that is patreon.com/Leaving Eden podcast. You can also join our Facebook group and our subreddit, reddit.com/r/Eden Exodus and facebook.com/groups/Eden Exodus. Both of those are awesome places where we have discussions with fans, and you can post questions, post memes, stuff like that. Make sure that you send your emails to us, because we're going to do a Q&A episode in probably a couple weeks, maybe a month or so. Sending an email to us is the best way to make sure that we actually see the message, the question that you want to send. So that email is leavingedenpod@gmail.com. And finally, I just want to say thank you to our Faith Promise Mission and I Gave It All to Your patrons. Our I Gave It All to Your patrons, there's 3 of you: Kathleen Moncrief, Melissa Mosley, and Todd Dale, on behalf of his lovely deconstructorina of a wife, Madeline Antrim. Thank you, all 3 of you, so much. Your contributions really do make this show possible, and we wouldn't be able to do it without you guys.
Yes, thank you so much to the I Gave It All to Your patrons.
Our Faith Promise Missions to your patrons, your names are Alex P., Ali Allen, Anisha Patel, Brooke Tully, Krissa, Crystal Patterson, Dora J., Enchanted Fairy, Esther, Hannah Ross, Hope Norum, Horton Here's a Shane, Janine Collin, Jen Kaharski, Jessica Tambo, Jonna K. Turwey, Kitty Kate, Kristen Marie, Learned Vixen, Lita, Linda Morgan, Lindsay Goss, Lorena Watson, Madeline Antrim, Madeline Cusick, Marlena Stuve, Marcia Millard, Mary Williams, Mary Martin, Megan Arendt, Rob the Methodist, Sarah Reese, Stephanie Johnson, Steve and Amy, Susie, Tara McNamara, The Loch Ness, Tiffany Enderby, and as always, Wes the Cowboy. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, big thank you to, of course, the Faith Promise Missions, and I gave it all to your patrons, but to everybody who supports us over on Patreon, as well as people who support us in non-financial ways, like recommending us to friends and family, posting about us on social, leaving a positive review on whatever podcast player you use. All of those things do help us continue to keep this show going, and we appreciate it.
Sadie, will you give us the TW and we can be on our way?
I sure will. In general, we talk about a lot of potentially triggering topics on this show, including but not limited to suicide and mental health, racism, misogyny, PTSD symptoms, child abuse, mental, physical, and sexual abuse, and spiritual abuse, including guilt, shame, and fear. In most episodes, we'll mention at least a few of these topics, but we do try to avoid any graphic detail unless it's necessary for the story that we're telling. And if we are going to include that kind of detail, we'll give you a heads up immediately before we do, so those that need to skip can skip. This episode contains a massive trigger warning for eating disorders, diet culture, calorie talk. We will talk about numbers, like a number of a person's weight, or this has X calories in it, or macro counting. Number talk is a little bit of a trigger for me personally, but it is necessary to this episode. What we won't do in this episode, because I never do and never will, is discuss other eating disorder behavior beyond like number counting, calorie counting, whatever. I don't ever discuss the methods that people use to achieve extreme calorie restriction, because I found that that's always damaging to me. So I feel like there's a high chance that it could be damaging to other people too. So we might say, Brittany Dawn made somebody exercise for 4 hours, but we wouldn't say Brittany Dawn made this person do this exact list of exercises and burned X number of calories. That's detail that isn't necessary. Oh, if you need to skip all of the fitness, influencer, and eating disorder stuff, you can just skip to the break after the offering, and we will put the timestamp for that in the show notes for the episode, because after the offering, we're going to be moving on to other scams and grifts and general BS that Brittany Dawn has been involved in, and it would be only cursory mentions of her poor treatment of people that had eating disorders or her claims of having one herself. There are also much briefer mentions of police brutality, animal cruelty, and suicide in this episode.
Would also like to just remind our listeners before we start this episode that weight is just a number, that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and that your value as a human being does not change with your size.
Yes. And also, weight is a very small component in a person's health, and we need to end fat phobia in medicine. And I want to shout out Hannah Hill on Twitter. She speaks about religious abuse and orthorexia recovery and body positivity. Just a high quality Twitter follow. She is at H_Hill_DPT2B. I'll link her Twitter everywhere that I can, because she's just been a real positive voice in my own process of learning about this. Finally, I want to recommend, believe it or not, a New York Times article. The article is called "You Don't Look Anorexic," and it's from October 2022. This article is about someone that I knew personally and went to Hyles-Anderson with. Her name is Sharon Maxwell. Obviously, I would not be recommending that you read a New York Times article about trans people or the city of Portland, but this article is definitely worth a read. It's about atypical anorexia and Sharon's experience with the IFB and eating disorders, and it's a really valuable read.
Thank you so much for that. And I think we can get started. So last month, Brittany Dawn Nelson, also known as Brittany Dawn, so I'm going to be calling her Brittany Dawn through most of this episode. She took to her podcast. She has a podcast now to, in her words, she says, break her silence about why she got sued by the state of Texas. Now that this court case is over, that she can actually talk about it and do damage control. Before Brittany Dawn was sued by the state of Texas, she had been called out by her customers for not providing the services that she advertised, and this was her excuse. So in 2019, she gave an interview on Good Morning America, and she claims that she, quote, jumped into an industry that had no instruction manual. And another quote from her, she said, "I'm basically going through uncharted territory." And so if you know anything about Brittany Dawn, she's a fitness influencer turned Christianity influencer. If you take her story at face value and don't really look too closely at the details and you squint a little bit, you can kind of see why she might frame it like this. So her claim is essentially that she got into being a fitness influencer and her followers wanted to have a body like hers, and she showed them how to do that for a price. But unfortunately, she was so popular that she couldn't possibly keep up with the pace of demand. And rather than turn people away, she cut corners. And when people started figuring it out, she got overwhelmed with the amount of people asking for their money back, and she found herself between a rock and a hard place. She just made a mistake, and that's not the worst thing that anybody's ever done. And since doing that, she has gone through a lot of internal growth and spiritual growth, and she's not the same person that she was back then. So you should give her some grace. That sounds about right, Sadie? That's kind of what she's saying.
I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just doing my best, and oh no, like very, yeah.
Brittany Dawn is far from the first business owner to have demand for her product vastly outpace the supply for her product. She's far from the first fitness influencer to start selling personalized fitness plans, and she also has competition in her market sector. So there is a reasonable risk that customers who she can't provide services to could find those services elsewhere. And looking at it this way could possibly make her story a bit more sympathetic if I was going out of my way to be charitable to somebody. But this also kind of flies in the face of her claim that she is going through, quote, uncharted territory. The most basic rule of economics is supply and demand. And if demand is higher than supply, then you can either increase the supply or you can raise your prices to cut demand. Brittany Dawn is selling her personalized fitness and nutrition plans for between $100 and $300, is how much she was selling them for between 2014 when she started her business and 2019 when she changed from being a fitness influencer to a Christianity influencer. She was selling fitness plans for between $100 and $300. I don't know about you, Sadie. I've never purchased a fitness plan / nutrition plan, but I don't think that paying $100 to $300 for something that's personalized like that is an outlandish price, if it is personalized.
No, it's not. And I actually have some facts to back it up. So I follow Lauren Drain on Instagram. This is the same Lauren Drain that escaped Westboro Baptist Church in dramatic fashion. She's now a fitness influencer, but not a scammer. As far as I know, she sells really similar plans to what Brittany Dawn was selling. Those semi-personalized plans run from about $99 to $189. She also does 8 to 12 week fully custom programs, so fully customized meal plan, fully personalized workout plan, and access to her for multiple check-ins. And those run for $399 for 8 weeks or $479 for 12 weeks.
So it's not like an outlandish price for Brittany Dawn to be charging $100 to $300, especially including inflation.
Yeah. No, that like for what Brittany was selling was supposedly fully customized meal and workout plans and coaching, although she provided none of the above. But her prices would have been pretty reasonable for what she was selling.
In fact, I personally believe that she could have easily charged a much higher premium because her name was on the product, considering that she had she had 500,000 followers on Instagram, and I think now she has about 1 million followers on TikTok. So She could have done things like expand her business and hire additional employees to help put these plans together. That may have hurt her margins and her profits, but it could have gained her additional market share. It could have helped her expand her customer base, thereby would have made her business more sustainable and more profitable. So it's not as if Brittany Dawn is the only person to ever have this as her business model.
No, this is pretty common. I don't follow a lot of fitness influencers on Instagram because having that be my whole feed wouldn't be healthy for me. But there are a couple people that I like their personality and I like their fitness content and I like their other content. And those are the people that I follow. And I think so many fitness influencers that I've seen are doing this. They're expanding their business, and selling workout plans and diet plans is a really profitable way to do that because there's no inventory. So you're not buying a t-shirt and then putting your logo on it and marking it up and selling it to somebody else. Like when we sell merch through Threadless, our profit margins are really low because the website has to pay for the t-shirt and pay for the printing, and the profit for us is just like 10% or 15% of what the shirt sells for.
Probably less than that.
Usually less than that if they're running any kind of sale. So selling something that does not have physical inventory is a great way to capitalize on having an influencer following. This is common and pretty normal in the fitness influencer world. And Brittany Dawn, so the one thing that she was doing was selling her time for the coaching and her time for putting together personalized plans for people. So when her business took off beyond what she could handle, like you said earlier, she had a couple of choices. She could raise the prices so that fewer people would buy it and she would have time to keep her commitments, or she could have hired employees who would work with her. She could have hired a couple personal assistants to help her answer all these emails and text messages. She could have hired personal trainer friends of hers to help her put together these personalized plans and been transparent about that to her customers, but that is not what she chose to do. So when this all came out in the wash, what we learned is that Brittany was not personalizing these diet and workout plans at all. She was selling the same plan to everyone and telling them it was personalized to their height, their weight, their goals, their macros. It wasn't. It was the same. She was also selling this feedback and coaching from herself, where participants in her workout and diet plans were supposed to be able to email her and say, hey, I lost some weight, but now I've plateaued. Should I change something? And Brittany would respond with a coaching type answer. But when somebody emailed her with a question, like, I lost some weight, but now I've plateaued, what do I do? Brittany would email back with very generic phrases like, you're doing great, babe, or you look fantastic, keep up the good work, and not actually answer their question at all.
It's a shame that Brittany Dawn was running these scams prior to like Chat GPT. Can you imagine if there was like a Brittany Dawn GPT?
Oh man, if she had Chat GPT, she would have never got caught.
She would have never got caught. No one would have figured it out. No, but this is what I would describe this as a scummy business practice. Where it gets really predatory is the way that she went about finding clients and targeting them. And what she does here is, I would say, goes beyond predatory into the realm of such contemptible and manipulative and sociopathic behavior. Like, in order to be a person who would do this sort of thing, you have to either believe that other people don't exist or that other people only exist so that you can get things from them. It's just truly vile behavior.
Amen to that.
And this is where we're getting really into the eating disorder stuff. So TW for that. According to Brittany Dawn's website, bdawnfit.com, she suffered from an eating disorder starting in November 2011. She describes an obsession with thin women with visible collarbones, believing them to be the pinnacle of beauty. She describes losing about 30 pounds in 2 months, not eating, over-exercising, and consuming about 1,000 calories per day. Did you read I read this website.
I did.
I read this website.
I didn't read it in prep for this episode because I have read it before and I didn't need to reconsume that content, if that makes sense, but I have read this.
Because reading through the story on the website, To me, it reads as very real.
Oh, absolutely. I am sorry that she suffered that way. Unfortunately, she chose to be a terrible person about it, so she doesn't get that much sympathy from me. But she does strike me, my gut feeling is that she really did suffer from this.
However, I think that there is a very real eating disorder to fitness junkie pipeline. I personally know more than one person that I think that this applies to. And I can certainly understand how the attention to detail and the focus on goals would translate over from one to the other. I do have a concern that maybe they're just similar in function, that the main difference between the two being what the person views as the ideal physical form. While it may be better for a person's long-term physical health for them to be muscly than it is for them to be starved, the step that you've got to take to like accept that you look like what you look like and that your body isn't always 100% under your control doesn't affect whether or not you're worthy of love. That doesn't really factor in here in the same way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this is a tough line to draw, especially because in cis men, eating disorders so often show up as orthorexia, which is obsession with eating quote unquote clean or quote unquote healthy, going to the gym, looking a certain type of muscular rather than looking extremely thin, as we see more often in cis women with eating disorders. I've known of people who seem to have actually successfully recovered from eating disorders through getting into fitness. And it started maybe less healthy because they could only be okay with gaining weight if they were gaining muscle, but they were able to spin that and work and work and work to where fitness is actually a healthy outlet for them. They're not currently suffering from an eating disorder anymore. I have known people who really seem to have successfully done it, but sometimes it is just trading one eating disorder for another, because some people will get into fitness, but they're still obsessed with calories, obsessed with exercise, and they have not changed their disordered thinking. They have not successfully received help for the eating disorder that they are suffering from. And that's why this kind of recovery often needs professional help from real professionals, unlike Brittany Dawn.
So when Brittany Dawn started her company, Brittany Dawn Fitness LLC, in 2014, she advertised herself as eating disorder survivor friendly. She would use hashtags like hashtag ED warrior and hashtag more than just a number. At the time, Brittany Dawn was in her early 20s, and her target demographic was women and girls in their late teens and early 20s. Her pitch was basically, you can conquer your eating disorder with a macronutrient plan, which are, and macronutrient plans, by the way, are known colloquially in the fitness community as macros. But her pitch was basically, you can conquer your eating disorder with a macronutrient plan and an exercise plan. And she specifically targeted the demographic of people who are most likely to have their self-worth tied to their bodies and their physical appearance. Under supervision from a physician or a healthcare professional, a nutrition plan can absolutely be part of eating disorder recovery. Like, if you have somebody making sure that you eat at least a certain number of calories per day. But that is not what Brittany Dawn was doing. Some of Brittany Dawn's personalized nutrition plans had some clients reportedly training very hard while only consuming 1,000 calories per day. Brittany Dawn essentially targeted eating disorder survivors and people trying to recover from eating disorders and told them that she was offering a cure and gave them plans that enforced the behaviors that they were trying to recover from.
Yeah, and this is just despicable because, I mean, hell, they didn't make people train that hard and eat only 1,000 calories on The Biggest Loser, which we all know was toxic and not a healthy way to lose weight and hurt a lot of people physically and mentally.
It's wild to me that they ever actually broadcast that.
I know. And it's so like the fat phobia of the early 2000s, man. It f***s us all up. All of us especially those of us who were kids during the time. But that's Biggest Loser. I think you only need a very basic understanding of this sort of thing to understand that that is not okay. But it is doubly not okay when you're dealing with someone who is actively trying to work on an eating disorder and recovering from an eating disorder. That is, it just fills me with rage. So I wanted to look at, I know a lot of eating disorder recovery is mental. It's a mental health issue, and it's changing the way that you think and the incorrect things that you've learned and working on mental health. So I wanted to see what Brittany's headspace was when she was talking about this topic. I was clicking around some archived posts on her blog, and I came across one from July of 2015. She wrote an advice post on what to do if you have a weekend where you go totally off your diet plan. Like maybe you drink a lot, or maybe you just eat a whole pint of ice cream or whatever. What do you do when you fall off the wagon? And at first, like in this article, she gives some actually okay advice. She says, don't cut your macros down even further to make up for your cheat weekend or your falling off the wagon weekend. Don't feel guilty. Don't beat yourself up. Don't dwell on it. Just start over tomorrow. Go back to your normal macro plan. Go back to your normal amount of exercise. Tomorrow is a new day. Don't try to make up for your weekend where you went off your plan. Just start over tomorrow. Slow and steady wins the race. And that is correct advice. That's proper advice.
But if you're on Brittany Dawn's plan, how are you going to cut your macros down even further? Like, are you going to eat one low sodium rice cake for dinner instead of 2 low sodium rice cakes for dinner?
I should clarify. This is the correct advice if you are on a macro plan that works for you, your goals, and your needs right now. Like, regardless of whether your needs are to gain muscle, gain weight in general, lose weight, whatever, if you are on a macro plan that works for that goal, if you completely go off the plan for a weekend or a week or a few days or whatever, just going back to the plan and not trying to make up for it, not feeling bad, just go back to where you were, is the correct advice. Maybe this is not good advice if you're on Brittany Dawn's plan, but I have a bigger point here. So in this whole article from 2015, she is giving the appropriate advice on how to metaphorically get back on the wagon if you've fallen off. But while she is writing this correct advice, she refers to this hypothetical weekend of falling off the wagon as, quote, mistakes, quote, a slip up, and she frames, quote, major anxiety, guilt, and even depression as normal and okay responses to overeating. And that is a problem.
Oof.
That's a major problem. Quote, major anxiety, guilt, and even depression, end quote, are absolutely things that a person might feel when they believe that they have eaten too much or eaten, quote unquote, unhealthy foods. But that's diet culture talking. That is a culture where disordered eating is normalized talking. Major anxiety, guilt, and depression should not be a normal response to having eaten more than you think you should have eaten. And I'm not shaming anyone who feels that way. I have experienced this. I do currently experience anxiety, guilt, and depression over this sort of thing because I'm still working on this. So please don't feel shamed if those are feelings that you feel, because I do too. But this absolutely does not feel like recovery to me. This is not somebody who has successfully recovered from an eating disorder and is now in a position to advise others. This is the kind of thoughts that I'm still working to weed out of myself and encourage my friends through as they are also working on it. This is not the way I want to feel about food. That's not something that should be presented as a normal response.
So I've linked to you, Sadie, I've linked a post from the Mama Lion Strong blog from February of 2015. This is a blog. It's not, I think that it got taken down. I think that the woman who wrote it took it down. Her name was Jennifer Campbell, but it's on the Wayback Machine and I'll link it. And Jennifer Campbell still is like a health and fitness and wellness influencer who describes herself as a fitness industry survivor. And February of 2015, she wrote a blog post titled "The Most Disturbing Thing Happening in the Fitness Industry." In this blog post, Campbell writes that she was shown one of Brittany Dawn's fitness plans by a colleague to whom it was shown by one of Brittany Dawn's customers. Campbell reached out to Brittany Dawn with concerns regarding the health of her clients, saying that it was unethical, unwise, and outside of her scope of expertise to be taking on clients with apparent eating disorders. Campbell wrote in her letter that they should be recovering under the supervision of medical and mental health professionals rather than on a program by a fitness influencer. This letter also stated that conversations were being had by others in the industry about Brittany Dawn's potentially unethical practices. Campbell received a letter back, not from Brittany Dawn, but from a different trainer affiliated with Brittany Dawn, basically telling her to f*** off.
That letter was from Brittany's ex-husband, by the way.
Oh, okay, interesting.
They were in business together at the time when they were still married.
Campbell writes that she is not the only person that she knows of who has reached out to Brittany Dawn with these same concerns. Campbell alleges that she saw Brittany Dawn fitness plans that prescribed 2 or more hours of high-intensity interval training workouts 5 to 6 days per week, in addition to a daily intake of 1,300 calories or less. These plans allegedly denied cheat meals to underweight women, and that despite this, Brittany Dawn maintains certification from the National Academy of Sports Medicine. Campbell, additionally, in her blog post, not in her letter or anything, brings up that the focus of the fitness industry on appearance rather than the health of a person is a prevalent problem. And as evidence to back this up, she speaks about how female bodybuilders and fitness influencers are pressured to get like breast implants. Yeah, we haven't been able to verify Jennifer Campbell's claim about the fitness macros by Brittany Dawn because we haven't seen the specific ones that Campbell says that she saw. I messaged Campbell on Instagram and I asked her whether she still has access to this information. I didn't get a response, but she has like 15,000 Instagram followers, so she probably didn't even see my message. However, in one 3-day plan sampler that Brittany Dawn posted online, I went out and calculated the total calories of being, if I'm being very charitable to Brittany Dawn's plan, it's somewhere between 1,800 and 1,900 calories per day. And that's on a very charitable estimate to Brittany Dawn. Meals on this plan include a meal of, quote, 3 ounces of tuna or tilapia, 2 cups of green vegetables, and 12 almonds. It's the 12 almonds that really get me. Yeah, or she'll assign somebody a meal of 1 scoop isolate protein, 1/2 cup of oats, and 1 whole egg. My personal favorite meal that Brittany Dawn has on this plan is 1 whole egg, 1 small apple, and 2 low sodium rice cakes.
I mean, 1,800 to 1,900 calories a day is more, could potentially fit with somebody's goals and meal plan. Very dependent on how much exercise they're doing and what their current size is and what their goals are. But none of those meals constitute an entire meal for my toddler because I would be hearing, "Mama, I hungry," in like 30 minutes if I fed her any of that.
Just to clarify, her plan includes 6 meals per day. And each meal is, if I'm counting generously, each meal is between 200 and 350 calories. Yeah, so like a very rough estimate of how many calories the average person uses per day is about 2,000. That's what the it's not accurate to everybody, or it's like that's just how they calculate the serving sizes on the back of like nutrition facts on food. So I'm taller than the average person. I have more muscle mass than the average person. And I exercise more than the average person. So my estimate is probably closer to like 3,000 calories per day. However, because I'm 30 years old, if say we controlled for my height, my muscle mass, my metabolism would be slower than say a 24-year-old. Also worth noting that contrary to popular belief, if you control for like different factors like weight, height, muscle mass, women and men don't have different metabolism speeds.
That's good to know.
Yeah, women are usually just smaller and have less muscle mass. So if somebody is following Brittany Dawn's fitness plan, they're also probably training harder than I do. They're probably doing high intensity interval training, which is something that I don't do generally. However, if somebody is following Brittany Dawn's meal plan, chances are they're probably not getting the adequate nutrition to build muscle. So this will also slow down the metabolism. So if somebody is just on a fitness plan that Brittany Dawn posted to her website, they could easily be at a daily deficit of 1,000 calories. And so if there's 3,500 calories in a pound of fat, Brittany Dawn is essentially putting women with eating disorders on a diet and exercise plan that will have them at a significant caloric deficit, which is the opposite what you want. And even with this like charitable estimate of 18 to 1,900 calories, the diet that Brittany Dawn posted on social media with the diet that Campbell purportedly saw, these women could be calorically on track to lose somewhere in the range of 3 pounds per week, which is absolutely an extreme weight loss diet. It's also worth noting, as I stated above, that if a person isn't getting the calories and nutrition to support muscle growth and muscle maintenance, then their metabolism will stall and they will not continue losing weight as quickly. So if a person is starving themselves, which is a mentally difficult thing to do, and it's also physically painful, and they aren't seeing the physical changes in their body that they want to see, this can lead to a really vicious cycle, feedback loop, mental spiral that's not something that anybody would want, not something that anybody should have to go through. But this is among many reasons why weight and weight loss is not generally an overall indicator of what is or isn't healthy. So I spoke to a friend of mine who has a master's degree in exercise science, and I also spoke to another friend of mine who is an MD, and they told me like roughly the same thing, which is that so for people who want to lose weight for whatever reason, and they want to do so through diet and exercise, the generally recommended amount is between 1 and 1.5 pounds per week, give or take, depending on height, age, current body weight, current muscle mass. That's generally about a caloric deficit of around 500 calories per day. They encourage getting most of your nutrition, not all. There's like room for other stuff in there, but they encourage getting most of your nutrition by eating a mix of foods that are high in protein, eating leafy green vegetables, eating carbohydrates in the form of like whole grains and unrefined sugars, and fats that are not saturated fats. The thing that both of these people told me is that under most circumstances, weight loss that is more severe than the like 1 to 1.5 pounds per week is generally not sustainable over the long term and could potentially pose a serious danger to a person's physical and mental health.
So what Brittany Dawn is recommending is just not considered safe.
No.
And it's not going to produce, it might, depending on the person, produce short-term weight loss results, but it's not going to produce long-term muscle building results, and it's not going to produce long-term healthy weight loss results. So it's just bad. It's just bad advice.
I want to make absolutely crystal clear that the slow, methodical, holistic, sustainable approach to weight loss is not what Brittany Dawn was selling to her customers.
And she's also, I mean, I know she's a fitness influencer and the whole thing is about looking a certain way, but there's absolutely nothing for people who don't care what their weight is, but just want to put on muscle, or don't want to lose any weight, but just want to get stronger. This whole thing is a mess because she is coming at all of this from the perspective of you're going to lose weight, when that's not everybody's goal. That doesn't need to be everybody's goal. And it's not the stated goal of a segment of the population who she is purposely targeting through her Instagram hashtags. Like, she's purposely targeting people who do not want to lose weight. They want to work on eating disorder recovery, which involves gaining weight and repairing a relationship with food. Was she paying attention? Like, was she there Was she like in her own brain? Was she present for this?
It's so myopic. It's extremely myopic. So, according to the Dallas Morning News, a woman weighing just 80 pounds signed up for Brittany Dawn's fitness program because she believed that Brittany Dawn's fitness program would help her conquer her eating disorder. This woman was put on a calorically restrictive diet and at one point nearly passed out from malnutrition. Yeah, if somebody is suffering from malnutrition over a long period of time, it is not actually healthy to say, here, eat 50 cheeseburgers, because that could result in what's called refeeding syndrome, which is where the body is basically unable to adequately process the sudden intake of nutrients, and this can cause like changes in blood sugar, metabolism, hormones, and these things can result in heart attack or stroke, which are potentially life-threatening.
Shout out to my former youth pastor who went on a 21-day fast and then immediately ate a bunch of cheeseburgers.
What happened to him?
He was fine.
Yeah.
He got lucky. Don't do either one of those things. Don't do a 21-day fast and also try to fix malnutrition by eating a bunch of food. I think he got sick. Sick to his stomach, but he was fine.
If a person is malnourished to the point of passing out, they should probably be under the direct supervision of medical professionals, because the risk of that person, that person could suffer serious injury or death, or like a health complication if they eat too much or too little. I mean, it could potentially be fatal. What they should not be doing is doing high intensity interval training, which is what Brittany Dawn had this poor woman doing. Brittany Dawn is also extremely lucky that she didn't kill anybody doing this, because eating disorders are the second deadliest mental illness in the United States behind opioid addiction, and they kill more than 10,000 people every year. So like this is actually really serious what Brittany Dawn was doing. Brittany Dawn presented herself as a fitness coach and a fitness influencer who could help people with eating disorder recovery, and young women especially who want to look and feel their best. And then she took their money and gave them fitness plans that reinforced their eating disorder behavior while telling them that it was a cure.
It's just so heartbreaking, because when we're talking about people who have eating disorders who went to Brittany Dawn to try to get help, they've recognized that they have serious problems. They've recognized that they are experiencing a serious mental illness that is capable of taking their life. And they've been so brave as to reach out for help and make the first step to overcoming the serious mental illness that is capable of taking their life. They've reached out to somebody that they trust and they truly believe can help them, because she says she's been through it herself and she's all better now. And Brittany Dawn just took that trust and that genuine desire to get better and totally disregarded it in order to make money.
It's so messed up. She's just enabling the behavior that these women are trying to recover from, while basically Trojan horsing herself as an ally and a safe person. Of course, this is despicable behavior. This behavior was not what Brittany Dawn had to apologize for, and it's not what she got sued for. It's not the transgression that led her into becoming a Christian influencer. This is sadly a crime that she got away with, and she has yet to answer for in any meaningful way. Do you want to take up the offering, and then we can come back and talk about the how she really got called out for this and what her downfall ended up looking like, and then her return as a Christian influencer? Let's
do it. I'm 100% ready for the downfall, because this first half has made me sufficiently angry. Hey, Sadie here. If this is your first time listening to the Leaving Eden podcast, make sure you go back and check out episode 57. It's a primer episode for new listeners. That episode tells my personal story and gives you all the terms and information that you'll need to know going forward. Also, check out our cult true crime series, The First Family of Fundamentalism, so that you can get the whole cult story. If you like our show, you can support us by joining our Patreon, where we have extended and uncensored episodes as well as other bonus content available. You can also join in the discussion in our Facebook group. That group is called Eden Exodus. Tell a friend, tell a family member, tell your worst enemy. The Leaving Eden podcast is a fully independent podcast, and we really appreciate your support. Now, back to the show.
We are back from our break. We're talking about Brittany Dawn. We've covered, have we covered pretty much all the ED stuff?
Yeah, I don't think we'll need to do more than make vague references to it for the rest of this episode.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So if you're back, then
Yeah, if you're just joining us now, she sold unsafe fitness plans to people who reached out and said, "Hi, I'm struggling with an eating disorder. I want to start recovery. Can you help me?" And then she did not personalize the plans the way that she said she was going to. She did not provide the communication that she said she was going to, and she definitely harmed people who were making their best effort at recovering. And as Gabi said, she's lucky she didn't kill anybody.
this was the thing that got Brittany Dawn in legal trouble. Wasn't her like pro Anna nutrition plans and exercise plans. It was basically her false marketing claim that she would provide personalized plans to her customers. The plans that she provided, however, were not personalized. As Sadie said, they were not personalized to fit her clients' needs. They were very much a one size fits all approach. This came to light when some of her customers started talking to one another in a Facebook group and started sharing the plans that they were put on with one another, only to find out that many of her customers had been put on identical plans. So this is in about 2018 when this is all coming to a head. Additionally, they discovered that people who discovered this scam, basically, that Brittany Dawn was running and asked for refunds were either not given full refunds or were given a refund with the caveat that they also sign a non-disclosure agreement. People who complained publicly about this on Brittany Dawn's social media posts would have their comments deleted and their accounts blocked.
The other part of this is that she was supposed to provide personalized feedback for people while they were on these customized plans that she was supposedly customizing for them. People who were on these plans were supposed to be able to contact her and hear back from her, but if she even bothered to email these people back, she was providing very generic responses. As these Facebook groups criticizing her started to form, people started realizing that it wasn't just them and she was doing this to everybody.
So this starts to get some buzz online, and more people are talking about it on videos. They're talking about it on Instagram, talking about it on TikTok. And in February of 2019, prank YouTuber named Cassidy Campbell made a video in which he pretends to be the father of one of Brittany Dawn's customers and approaches Brittany Dawn's booth at a fitness convention. He confronts her and claims that she stole $200 from his daughter by providing her with a cookie cutter meal plan rather than a personalized one, and then blocking her on social media. I'll link the video, and it's a very weird video. I guess for attention, Cassidy Campbell pretends to be like a big MAGA Trump guy who just walks around saying "America" a bunch.
So that people would pay attention to him when he confronted Brittany Dawn, or was that just like a 2 pranks for 1 YouTube video?
I don't like, he's going around calling people libtards, and I think that's to like, one, to draw attention to himself, but also like I think it's for like SEO. Like if you can add MAGA prank to your video and also add like fitness scammer and MAGA prank, then you'll maybe get more views. I don't know. That's kind of my impression of why he was doing it, just for like attention.
Yeah, I haven't seen the whole video. All I have seen is the one clip where he confronts her.
He's like, if you watch the whole video, basically he's walking around this convention calling people like libtards and saying "America" a bunch. And then he walks up to Brittany Dawn and confronts her for stealing money. And then right when he's about to confront her, the video like cuts to a bunch of like screen grabbed videos and vlogs of people talking about Brittany Dawn and how she scammed them for like 4 or 5 minutes, just to like give a backstory about who Brittany Dawn is. And then it cuts back to the video where Campbell confronts Brittany Dawn. Brittany Dawn basically just doesn't react, and one of the guys that is at the booth with her just gets between Campbell and Brittany, and eventually Campbell walks off. But this video, like, it was very attention grabbing, and it quickly received hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. I don't know how quickly it received these views, but I will say that over the 4 years that it's been out, It's nearly reached 2 million views on YouTube. And it also included a link to like a change.org petition, which was petitioning the Federal Trade Commission to, quote, stop Brittany Dawn fitness scams. And this petition got more than 15,000 signatures. So it was a fairly popular YouTube video. At this point, so this video drops on February 5th, 2019, and Brittany Dawn can't really ignore the hate that she's getting online anymore. Because like if you go back and you look at her Instagram around this time, you'll probably see that like a third of the comments, women saying, "You look amazing, go get it, girl." And like a third of them are from thirsty dudes. And then like a third of the comments are from people saying that she's a scammer and she's a bad person who exploits other people for money. So Cassidy Campbell's video goes out on February 5th, 2019. On February 6th, 2019, Brittany Dawn uploads a video to YouTube called My Public Statement About the Past 24 Hours.
Is this the video where she has the dryer running in the background and didn't even bother to turn it off?
Yes. That I can kind of forgive because when it's laundry day, you have to get the timing right, you know? Like if one thing takes too long, then that throws the whole rhythm off. I'm not really like bothered about that.
Listen, buddy, I just got done with not having a washer or dryer in my house for 7 years since the summer of 2016. And in that time, I have had an entire newborn who then became a baby and then became a toddler. And I had to deal with that while having a job that includes content creation. I think she can turn off her washer and dryer in her own damn house for 20 minutes to make a video. I think this is tacky and shows her level of not caring, even though she's pretending that she really cares.
Just full disclosure, I have had to cut laundry machine noises out of this podcast many times. But yeah. I guess a podcast is a longer form of medium and you can't really like I can put a load of laundry and sit down to record. I honestly, there's a load of laundry going on right now in my house, but you can't hear it.
Yeah, you went in a different room and then if it made noise, you edit the noise out because you actually care. That's where I'm coming from.
Here's what she says. She says, there are some things on the surface that have come to surface that need to be addressed. And I'm here with my heart on my sleeve to, like I said, put everything to rest once and for all. And she goes forward with reading off her phone a written something that she would call an apology, but I'll let you guys make up your mind whether or not this classifies as an apology or not. Do you want me to read it?
Oh, please.
So this is what she says. She says, I apologize to anyone who feels like they got scammed from me. And I genuinely promise that my intentions from the start were pure. I wanted to help and impact as many women as I could because I felt like this was why I was given this incredible platform. When you're given an opportunity like this, you would be stupid not to take it and run with it. And unfortunately, I ran too fast for one person. These claims are from years ago after I launched into a business that took off too fast and I didn't know how to mentally handle it. I did what I knew to do to the best of my ability and I didn't know what I was signing up for simply because being an influencer and running a fitness influencer business was not really a thing back then.
So she said, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry I was too successful. I'm sorry that my financial success blinded me to hurting thousands of people.
She goes on to say that in the past 24 hours since the Cassidy Campbell video was uploaded, that she received death threats and harassment on her social media pages, which on one hand, having looked at her social media pages from around this time, I would definitely say that's accurate. On the other hand, if you get caught scamming vulnerable people out of thousands of dollars and people get mad at you for it, it's really hard for me to see you as a victim and being like, you know, the real people, the real evildoers here are the people who are getting mad at me about this. Because that's kind of like she's trying to do like a whole Darvo thing. Mm-hmm. The thing that I have to point out is that the same internet that is the internet that enables people to send you angry message like whenever they want to is also the same internet that enabled you to like leverage being a thin blonde woman into a way to scam people. That being said, being angry at somebody for being a scammer does not entitle anybody to be misogynist or send anybody death threats online. But this video is very much like a poor me, I'm a victim of my own success.
Yeah.
Pretty gross.
I agree with everything you just said.
I would like to read for you on here the description on this YouTube video just to see what you think.
Okay.
I am so sorry. Unfortunately, with being human comes learning from making mistakes. This is my heartfelt apology to move forward and make things right. And I please ask that the death threats end and for my family/friends to be left alone from here on out. Customer service email be on whatever must include name, reason for contacting, receipt, proof of purchase. Instagram, Brittany_Dawn_fitness, Twitter @BDawnFit. And then she goes down to her like links where she says workouts and recipes, bdawnfit.com. Inquiries, bdawnfit@gmail.com. Shop myself Tanner.
Herself Tanner and her Airbnb affiliate link.
Yeah, she has affiliate marketing links in the description of her apology video for being a scammer.
So one thing that really stuck out like from that video description is that she used the word mistakes to describe scamming people out of thousands of dollars, which is really interesting because she also used the word mistakes in 2015 to describe eating a large ice cream sundae.
My favorite part of this video, though, is just the fact that she included the link to the self-tanner.
See, I'll criticize her for the dryer noises, but I'll give her a pass for the fake tan. It's better than skin cancer. I'm all about sunscreen and fake tan evangelism.
It's true. I'm all for getting sunburned because I don't like sunscreen and then having a bad time the next week or so. Not really, but that's what I always do, even though I never learned for it. No.
How many times have you texted me a picture of you at the beach or whatever, and I text you back, put on sunscreen, and then you do not do it?
Every time.
Every time.
If I were a fake tanner kind of guy, I don't think that I would be buying Brittany Dawn's fake tanner because she's very much in like the Donald Trump brand of fake. She's in like the Oompa Loompa Doompity Doo. I've got another scammer for you. Do you think that it is appropriate to be monetizing the apology video that you have to make because you scammed people out of thousands of dollars?
No, I do not. I am being facetious about supporting her fake tan business. It does seem to be a common thing to monetize apology videos. I feel like I see that a lot, but no, I don't think it's actually okay for her to be selling her fake tan under this video.
I mean, Colleen Ballinger didn't even monetize her apology video.
I thought she did.
No, she didn't.
I tried to follow that drama, but I didn't know enough about who she was for it to make sense to me, so I gave up on it.
I didn't know who she was either, and then I saw the video. So, somebody made the Colleen Ballinger apology song into a playable song on Guitar Hero, and then we downloaded it and played it on guitar. It was atrocious. Trigger warning for suicide and suicidal ideation. In the years since, Brittany Dawn has said that at both her She Lives Freed retreats and on social media that on February 14th, 2019, she attempted to take her own life. I don't know if following this, if she received any sort of counseling or if this was how she started getting more into Christianity. Having looked at her social media comments from around this time, there were a lot of very disgusting comments on her social media posts that were definitely encouraging her to do things that she would not be able to undo, which is never okay, which is never an okay thing to say to
yeah. No, I totally agree. No matter how much of a scammer or a scumbag person somebody is, that's not an okay comment to make, because maybe that's the way you genuinely feel about them, and I'm not here to I would encourage you to try not to feel that way about other people, and I would encourage you to work through your own issues and not, try to think that way about other people. But even if that is honestly how you feel in the moment, you are hurting your rage at the person that you're directing that kind of comments at is farther reaching than just that person, because there are other people in the comment section who are reading what you said to that person that can be harmed by your words. It's not okay from any perspective.
So in the following weeks after this, this story became national news, and Brittany Dawn appeared on Good Morning America. So the Good Morning America story did not focus on the more disturbing aspects of Brittany Dawn's scam. It didn't mention the ED survivor aspect of it. Basically, the unsatisfied customer who appeared on Good Morning America during the segment only complained basically that she got generic responses from Brittany Dawn when she complained that she wasn't actually losing weight. The Good Morning America segment airs in February of 2019, late February of 2019. And for the next 8 or 9 months, Brittany Dawn continues posting the normal stuff that she usually posts. On November 29th, 2019, Brittany Dawn uploads a video to YouTube called "Things Are Changing, My Identity." And in this video, she announces that she is no longer just a fitness content creator, but that she is now a Christian content creator. 1 month later, on December 27th, 2019, Brittany Dawn uploads a video in which she reviews the Kanye West album Jesus is King. We talked about this record back in about almost a year ago when we talked about Kanye West, when we talked about personality cults. And if you want to know my extended thoughts on that record, you can go back and listen to that episode from last fall. But just a little nugget from this that I'd like to share. Brittany Dawn lists 3 favorite songs from the record, and one of them is Closed on Sunday, which is the song with the Chick-fil-A line.
Oh, God. That is so on brand. If you specifically that song, I didn't like this album, but I can empathize and understand with why some people would, and I'm not trying to just shame somebody for a music that they like. But if you specifically think that Closed on Sunday is a good track, musically or lyrically, like a good piece of music, you are wrong.
The song goes, "Closed on Sunday, you're my Chick-fil-A, hold the selfies, put the gram away." To somebody like Brittany Dawn, the line, "hold the selfies, put the gram away," probably cuts to the core of her being. Like, I remember when we discussed this album, I was confused. I was like, who is this album even for? And now I guess we have the answer. It's people like Brittany Dawn, like people who have become outspoken Christians as a way to avoid accountability for their horrific behavior. And they admire Kanye's move to becoming a Christian artist and will be outspoken about how Kanye's change is sincere because they want people to believe that their change is sincere. I think it's also maybe for people who are like both Christians and D-list celebrities who think that if triple A-lister like Kanye becomes a Christian now, it's like now time for their personal come up if they hitch their wagon to his coattails and like ride the wave of like hype, of like Christian hype into cultural relevancy. And I feel like Brittany Dawn kind of exists in the Venn diagram of those two types of people.
Yeah, just not enough so for her to actually hold the selfies or put the gram away on Sunday.
No.
Because she has definitely not done that.
Never in her life. I just want to read a little quote from this video, though, because I watched this video and there was something in there that I thought was a little bit interesting that she said. And she's talking about Kanye. She says, "He has undergone a radical transformation, and it is not our job to judge where he is or isn't on his walk with Christ. It just breaks my heart to see that people are being so quick to judge because he is Kanye West. And he did years ago say that he was God, and for him to go from he was God to I'm following God and that total surrender, there are so many people judging him for that, and it just breaks my heart. People and Christians are acting like God is not capable of using whoever he chooses to use. And wake up call, God is able to use whoever he pleases to glorify his kingdom, to spread his good word, his truth, his gospel." I found that quote very interesting. When she talks about Kanye, I see two things. One, the obvious thing is that when everything that she says about Kanye is something that she could apply to herself. Second is that when she says that God is using Kanye to glorify his kingdom and that he can use anybody no matter whatever they've done in the past. She is saying God is choosing to use me, and if you doubt this, then you are doubting the power of God to change my life, and he is not using you in the same way that he is using me. It's just like Brittany Dawn is completely incapable of looking at any piece of media, any event that takes place, any piece of content, any story without looking at it through the lens of how does this relate to me and my personal journey.
Yeah. The thing is that I don't think she's actually talking about her personal journey here, because she's saying God can use anybody regardless of what they've done in the past. But in her other video, her message was, I haven't done anything wrong, and I'm sorry if you felt scammed, but all I did was have a business that was too popular too fast and I couldn't keep up with it, and I just tried to help too many people at once.
I know, it's so gaslighty.
She's saying, God can use anybody, even people who are big sinners like me, but also the main sins that people accuse me of, I didn't do.
Even if I was a sinner, which I'm not, God would still be using me, and therefore you can't judge me. Like, it's like I did nothing wrong, and even if you think that I did something wrong, well, Jesus forgave me, and so it's completely moot. And if you continue to speak about it or feel negatively towards me because of it, you're you're resentful, you have a spirit of negativity, you have a spirit of judging, and the spirit of negativity and the spirit of judging are not spirits of God.
Yeah, it's giving Dave Hiles.
Yeah. You know what it's giving? It's giving Ginger Duggar. Because you remember in her book, Becoming Free Indeed, when she said, what my brother, and this is a quote from her, she said, what my brother Josh needs is a new heart, a heart that only Jesus can provide. That's what I need. That's what we all need. But in saying this, she's essentially implying that if you're not saved by Jesus, you're no better than her brother who is rotting in prison because he likes to watch videos of children being tortured and sexually abused. I'm sorry if I have to keep bringing up that quote all the time, but like I have to keep bringing up because it's a insane thing to say. By the way, stay tuned next month when we review Ginger's sister Jill, her book, which is called Counting the Cost. That's coming out next month, and we're going to review it next month.
So we have to back up a little bit on Brittany's timeline. Before her Christian conversion, there was an ex-husband, and we need to talk about him so that we can get to the new husband that came around as part of the Christian conversion.
So her ex-husband is the one that wrote to Jennifer Campbell basically saying, F off, stay out of our business if you know what's best for you.
Yeah, he was also a fitness dude. It was like their thing as a couple. So she was married to this guy, her high school sweetheart, Zach. There were credible allegations that she cheated on him, but she also claims that he was abusive. And based on, there are a lot of unconfirmed reports of people who claim to be former friends of hers or know her personally and then got fed up with her and joined the snarker community. One unconfirmed report isn't really anything to go on, but due to there being quite a few on Reddit and in other communities that talk about Brittany Dawn, I tend to believe both that she cheated on him and also that he was abusive.
It's also worth noting that eating disorders are often like a side effect of being in an abusive relationship because so many things are outside of your own control.
So just based on, I cannot say for sure because I don't know the truth of this situation, but my best guess would be both. Like they were both just terrible to each other. Almost immediately after Brittany found Jesus, so she discovered her ex's cheating on her, broke up with him a while before her big Christian transformation. I think about a year before her big Christian transformation. If you want more info on the exact timeline, Jen over at Fundy Fridays, friend of the pod, she's done much more of the nitpicky timeline stuff that I normally do. So I wanted to cover things that are slightly different for our episode. But if you want more on the exact timeline, by all means, watch the Fundy Fridays video. Not only that, but of course, Jen is much funnier than I am. Yeah, she broke up with Zach in fall of 2017. And then she went through several more boyfriends as the news was breaking about her being a scammer through like late 2018 and early 2019. Then in summer of 2020, she started teasing a new man post-Christian transformation. So almost immediately after she found Jesus, she met Jordan Nelson, who is affectionately not referred to by the snarker community as J-Dog. Before their marriage, Jordan was a police officer in Kansas City, where he was sued by the ACLU for police brutality. He is a very typical, tattooed bro dude, ex-cop, found Jesus, rolls his eyes at feminine things like makeup and his wife asking him to take cute photos. He mocks her in her own posts. She secretly films him to mock him. The whole thing is kind of a mess. Did you see the SNL sketch about women sending their boyfriends to Sephora? She asks for mascara and he brings back foundation that's the wrong color.
Keenan's like, I have a cream that costs $80.
He's that guy.
Oh, that sucks.
He's very much that guy. When I say that he lost his job and was sued by the ACLU for police brutality, he f***ed up so bad that he couldn't be a cop anymore.
Did you watch the video of the police brutality?
Yep.
Because I did.
Mm-hmm. I did, and it was extremely unpleasant. And also, just by way of trigger warning, we're going to briefly verbally describe what happens in this video.
I mean, it's literally just a dude is walking down the street, a bunch of cops roll up on him and tell him, guys, standing there, his arms are out, his palms are away from his body and facing forward. Jordan walks up to him slowly, the guy isn't moving, and then Jordan just kicks his knee out, grabs his arm and throws him face first into the pavement. It's brutal. Mm-hmm. It's the dude does a WWE move on the guy and throws him face first into the concrete, and the dude's head full on face first, and the dude's head bounces back up 3 feet. It's
So Josh Bills is the victim of Jordan's assault here. He was stopped on the sidewalk because he, quote, fit the description of a black man in black pants and a hoodie. This happened in Kansas City, and we'll link the full ACLU post so you can check it out from there if this is something that you need to see. Bills did not resemble the guy they were looking for. He was literally just a black man wearing something kind of similar to the outfit that the suspect that they were looking for was wearing.
No, he wasn't even wearing a hoodie. He was wearing a puffy jacket that had a hood on it.
And like you said, he did everything correctly. What people always say, oh, if you had just complied. He complied. He did everything that people say you're supposed to do. He had his hands out. He was not moving. He was looking into the face of the officer, standing completely still. And it does not ever justify police brutality, even if it is the guy that they are looking for, even if they've got the correct suspect. It is still not okay for police to slam a person's face into the sidewalk for no reason. And it's not even justified for police to slam somebody's face into the sidewalk because they don't respond the way that police want them to. That is an incredibly stressful situation for anybody. And for somebody to not be able to... Anyway, you listeners are hopefully on the same page as me. It is not justified even if he were not complying. It is not justified even if he were the suspect. But in this specific scenario, Josh Bills was completely compliant and not the guy they were looking for. And Jordan slammed his face into a sidewalk for fun because he could.
I mean, some people do become cops because they like having power over other people. They like the feeling of getting to abuse other people and there not being anything that those people can do about it. And by any account, I believe that that's the kind of person that Jordan is. A reasonable officer does not walk up to somebody and just do what he it was so egregious.
Mm-hmm. I'll have more about Jordan's personal delusions of power and importance a little bit later. According to Brittany, Jordan and Brittany met at a coffee shop when she was early on in her finding Jesus journey. They started going to church together, and although both had previously been married, they decided not to live together or have sex until they were married.
Always make sure that you live with somebody before you legally bind yourself to them.
I've said this, so I've known people personally who did feel like they needed to wait until marriage to have sex for religious reasons or even for non-religious reasons. And when I've talked to these people, I've always said that's a risk because you might have compatibility issues. But that's a manageable risk. And the outcome, if you do have compatibility issues, is often something that can be overcome. Not always, but it is often a fixable outcome. What is a much greater risk is failing to spend enough time with a person before marriage. Like, have sex before marriage or don't. It is so much more of a risk to not know a person well enough or not know what they're like when you're truly in private or not know what they're like on their worst day. That is way scarier than not knowing what they're like to have sex with. Now, on this show, we support whatever consensual decisions people make about their own sex lives. What we don't support is being an influencer who is trying to skew other people's decision-making process towards a particular decision and then lying and doing something different than what you were trying to get other people to do. There is good evidence that Brittany and Jordan were living together before they got married. Remember, this person she documents her entire life. So there would be days where she would post about going to meet him somewhere, but the timeline of her days didn't line up unless they slept at the same place the night before. Or you would see his work boots by her door in vlogs that she made at times of the day that didn't make sense if they weren't living together. So there's pretty good reason to think that they were living together and having sex before they got married.
I mean, to be fair, this is also a woman who preaches about modesty and who has built up her entire career off of posting thirst traps on the internet.
Yeah, so this is the other thing. Brittany is now on her modesty journey, and she goes on and on and on about modesty. She has definitely cut down on the very short shorts and crop tops that she used to wear often, and she's like moderated her dress, but also she still posts bikini photos. They're just modest bikinis with more coverage on the bottom, a little bit high-waisted, more of like a vintage bra type top, not like a triangle bikini top. It's a cute style, but to me, it doesn't quite scream modesty. Yeah. Like everybody else that I know that is doing some form of modest or more covered swimwear for any reason, from religious reasons to sun protection, generally will wear like a one piece. I don't know. It doesn't track for me.
It's not the modesty panels that you had to hook into your bra loops.
It is absolutely not.
With the clips and the
clips that never worked. So then I had to safety pin. And then like it'd be the middle of church and I'd breathe wrong and all of a sudden I'm getting stabbed in the collarbone with a safety pin. Nah. Brittany Dawn knows nothing about the struggle. She thinks she's disciplined because she can work out a whole bunch. Well, she's never tried getting stabbed in the collarbone with a safety pin when you can't leave and go fix it.
She's never tried playing piano with only her arms moving and no other part of her body moving one bit. Just like... And I'm saying this with all the love and respect for people who have found a way to monetize being hot on the internet. No disrespect to any of you. The only reason why people follow fitness influencers is because you're like too classy to openly follow butt models. And Brittany Dawn was not... Like, if Brittany Dawn was not posting thirst traps in 2014 and instead she was posting videos of herself doing workouts wearing like sweatpants or basketball shorts and like an oversized t-shirt from a charity fun run from 6 years ago, she never would have built up a following.
But Brittany Dawn's like whole thing is, well, God, yeah, I was sinning by posting all those thirst traps in 2014, 2015, but God used it for good because now God has given me this amazing platform to love and support other women and be a voice for good in the world.
I know, it's so funny. She's just like, I there's a reason why I was given this platform like this. I'm like, wait, are you saying that God chooses hot people to be his emissaries on earth to do his work? Because that's kind of and that's kind of opposite to what Jesus said.
Okay, but probably yes. She probably does believe that.
Hot people are chosen by God. You heard it here first.
I did look on Brittany's Instagram while we were having that Patreon sidebar, and she uses old, like, quote unquote immodest photos of herself as side by sides, like then and now, to talk about how she's in her modesty journey now.
That's really, I mean, it's still a thirst trap.
So she's still posting it.
She's figured it out. She's got it. She can have her cake and eat it too. And honestly, I respect the grift.
And all these old thirst traps are still up on her Instagram. Like, I only had to go back to 2020, like January of 2020, and there are immediately pictures of her in bikinis doing competitions, pictures of her there's one that she's wearing just like an oversized white t-shirt and posing seductively. Like, if you're on your modesty journey now and those old pictures of you are still on your own Instagram feed, wouldn't you take them down?
Do you want to know what my favorite picture from Brittany Dawn's Instagram is?
What?
So it's this one when she's in her body positivity journey. I think I sent this one to you, but it's a picture of her where you can literally like you can see her abs and you can see like her arm muscles, and she's wearing or she's wearing a bikini with like a sports bra top. Is basically what it looks like. And the caption reads, "I've shown this photo before, ... but felt that it needed to be shared to go along with my post last night in reference to Lady Gaga's incredible body. No matter what shape, size, height, or weight a woman, or man for that matter, is, when she sits down and when she bends over, when she's in her natural element, she's going to have rolls. Whatever those are, body fat rolls or skin rolls, it doesn't matter." And she's posting a picture of herself just like slouching over a little bit, and you can see just like a little bit of like wrinkle.
Yeah, like slouching
skin over
on purpose so her skin makes like one single stomach roll that's tiny.
Yeah, it's like she's like, body positivity is for hot people too.
Yeah, but as we talked about in the first half, we seriously suspect that she has really poor self-image. So to her, she probably is freaking out over a tiny skin roll the way that people freak out about anything that they see that they think is not perfect about themselves. I was alerted to something by a wonderful fan of the show who wishes to remain anonymous, but you know who you are.
This is an elite fan of the show.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
So Brittany claims that she and Jordan started dating on September 18th, 2020, and they were married on September 18th, 2021. We do have like hard confirmation on what the wedding date was because it was all on Instagram. But they didn't start dating on September 18th of 2020 because there was a soft launch of Jordan on Brittany's Instagram in August of 2020. So 2 months soon, or a month sooner. She has moved the supposed date that they got together multiple times. And in September and October of 2020, Jordan was messaging women on Instagram with extreme cringe, asking for pictures of their boobs. So that is most likely why Brittany has moved the date that they became official several times, because that information has come out publicly and she wants to spin the narrative to where he was asking other women for nudes before they started dating, not months after.
I mean, what can we say? It's just a heart that's been changed by Jesus many times. At least it was Instagram and not Snapchat. I feel like Instagram is a little classier than Snapchat.
I mean, Adam Levine was on Instagram. So So when Jordan and Brittany got married, they recreated some of the wedding pictures that she did with her ex, Zach.
Ew.
Which is, that's just tacky. I would like to state for the record that Brittany's first wedding dress was completely over the top. I wouldn't want to call it ugly. I would just say it wasn't to my taste. It had a huge tulle mermaid skirt and an open back with a lot of crystals. You know, my taste would have been one or the other, not both, but that's just taste. It doesn't say anything about anybody. Her second wedding dress when she married Jordan was just a fitting disaster. There was really nothing. The dress was fine. The dress was pretty. The way that it was fitted, it was maybe the worst fitted wedding gown I have ever seen. It looked like it was literally going to fall off of her at any moment. I don't know how much duct tape she used to keep that thing on. It just did not flatter her body, looked incredibly precarious. The fit was an incredible disaster.
I feel like snarking on somebody for their physical appearance is not an excellent thing to do. Snarking on somebody because they use too much self-tanner is not always but snarking on somebody because their wedding is tacky is A-okay with me. And Brittany Dawn seems like the kind of person to have her first dance at her wedding be like 1,000 Years by Christina Perri?
You know, that was popular at a certain time, though. I think you could do, and it's a pretty song. I think you could do a lot worse. I think it's fine to snark on somebody for anything that they chose and could change if they chose to change it.
So you think the self-tanner is kosher? It's
a choice. She chooses to look that way. She is not born looking that way. She could change it in a week if she wanted to. And I think it's ugly. And so her self-tanner, her hair color, her extensions, her caterpillar lashes, all of that is stuff I feel perfectly okay snarking on. I wouldn't snark on somebody for the shape of their body or the shape of their face or the length of their fingers or any physical condition or disability or difference that they had. That's not cool. I would also like to, so I want to snark on Brittany Dawn, not only for her incredibly badly fitted wedding dress, but also for her bad hair colors and bad lipstick colors. She did the like So Platinum, it's silver gray toned hair for a while, and that looks amazing on some people, but she just had no regard for her skin tone. For me, it did not work with the tan. And then she also does like the girl defined kind of concealer lips or lipstick that is way too light, like light rose baby pink lipstick that to me, that never looks good with a really dark tan.
You know what I realized that it is about her, about the way that she does like her tanner and her hair and her makeup?
What?
It's the look that's like, I do it this way because it looks a certain way when I put the filter on TikTok or Instagram. Is why she looks like that, is why she chooses that appearance. It's for like, and you see it for like you ever see somebody who like in person and you think in person they look weird as and then you see them on Instagram or TikTok and you're like, wow, they look incredible. But then when you see them in person, you're like, they look almost like alien. It's that.
It is. And like now she's doing this ash, like very, very dark ash blonde kind of tone, hair tone, or like a ashy strawberry blonde. I don't really know how to describe it. It's a very unusual hair color that at first glance appears like to be a natural hair color. And then when you think about it, you realize that you've never, ever seen anyone with that hair color in real life because it's not actually a natural hair color that anybody could ever actually have. And I just think, I think she picks really ugly hair colors. Clearly, I have no problem with people dyeing their hair any color they want. I just think that hers are always not pretty colors to begin with and also don't do anything for her skin or her appearance. That's been fun, but I need to get into like other dark, unfortunately. Can we do that?
Go for it.
Okay. So I'm going back to Jordan and like Jordan and Brittany's early marriage, and I had to give a trigger warning for animal death. I hate Jordan a lot because he killed Brittany's dog. They got home from somewhere and her dog had gotten out of the yard. She claims that her yard is completely enclosed, but pictures that she has posted herself show that her yard is not completely enclosed, which is how the dog got out. The dog got injured like when it got out, and instead of taking the dog to the vet to see if there was any hope, Jordan just pulled out his gun and shot the dog in the front yard. And then they did a vlog about it.
Ugh, that's so gross. I also think that it's messed up that Jordan is even allowed to own a gun because he is a violent criminal.
Yes, and also there has been an extensive list of Brittany Dawn's pets that have died under unusual circumstances or gone missing through the years, as well as people who say that they know things about horses and they claim that she is not doing it right when it comes to taking care of her horses that she has. But speaking of Brittany Dawn mistreating helpless animals, we need to talk about the time that she exploited a vulnerable and helpless person.
Are we talking about James? Is this?
Yeah, we got to talk about James. So Brittany and Jordan met a homeless man named James who was struggling with addiction, and they claimed that they wanted to help him. It would have been a kind thing to do had they actually done so, wouldn't it? And this is going to lead into a much larger pattern of behavior for Jordan. So Brittany and Jordan all of a sudden get all up in this guy's life and his business, and they're putting all of this on social media. They get him into a hotel room. They're going to church with him. They are doing a pretty good job for a minute of like cosplaying actual Christians or people who actually believe Christian principles, I should say, because they are actual Christians regardless of whether I like it or not. Thank you, Chrissy Stroop. They start soliciting donations from Brittany's followers on social media. They set up a GoFundMe that raises $25,000. All of this money is intended to help James transition out of homelessness and get into a special addiction treatment center that's supposed to be really good.
That is an incredible use of Brittany Dawn's platform.
It would have been had they actually done what they said they were going to do. First, it appears that James may have been being held against his will. He did at one point try to escape the hotel room where they were holding him, and Jordan and men from the church forced him to stay there.
That's a felony.
Well, it's not Jordan's first.
Yeah, it's false imprisonment. You can't do that.
Yeah, and it's okay. It's great to have the impulse to help others. And sometimes our intentions can be good and our actions can be evil, especially when we are trying to help others on such a grand level as trying to help somebody transition out of homelessness. I've seen this, and sometimes our actions can be good and our intentions can be good, and the outcome gets fucked up through no fault of our own. Like, both of those things are things that happen. I saw this over and over again with parents in ministry growing up. Like, I've talked about this before. I literally saw it more than once. Our parents would cut our grocery bill down and have our family eat less for a week so that they could go buy food for other people, only to find out down the road that those people returned the food to the store to get cash for drugs. And that's just one example of how you can even do a good action with a good intention and still not have the outcome that you want when you're trying to involve yourself that deeply in a person's life. Trying to help people who say they want help and then that person decides that they don't want help after all is totally heartbreaking. I lived it as a child. I lived it repeatedly, and it was, I think, traumatic for me. I lived that over and over as a child and a teenager and a young adult. So I'm speaking from a place of experience. I get how bad that hurts when you really put it all out there to help somebody and then they change their mind and they decide they're not ready for that help. This is a normal part of doing actual good works, whether you're doing them as part of a religious ministry or your own religious practice or completely separate from religion. This is part of it. This is a thing that happens frequently when you try to involve yourself in a person's life to that level to try to help. No matter how good your intentions are, no matter how pure your actions are, this is a thing that happens. And this kind of disappointment is a major component of trying to help people.
And most people who quit using intravenous drugs take many, many attempts to quit using drugs.
Yes. So, but I think if we come in from the extremely generous assumption that just this one time, Brittany and Jordan had best intentions to help James. They thought they were really going to help somebody and they didn't intend to turn it into a scam in any way, shape, or form. Even with that extremely generous assumption, they had no idea what they were getting into and they were completely unprepared for the typical and normal and expected outcomes of trying to help somebody on that level. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you are going to try to be that person for somebody, you need to learn that sometimes it's not going to work and sometimes they're going to reject your help, and get over your ego and accept that. And you need to do that ASAP, preferably before you try to start helping people like that.
I keep thinking that because Jordan is a cop, or he was a cop, but he wasn't just a cop. He was a dirty cop. He was a violent cop. And his life is a life that's based around punishment and imprisonment. And so if he's going to try to get somebody to do something, he's very much thinking on second stage moral development, that you punish people for not doing things that you don't want them to do. And punishment and imprisonment is the first tool that he is going to try to use when he's going to get the results out of somebody. That's going to be his first thing that he jumps to, either violence or imprisonment.
And I'm just speaking from what I've learned from what I've seen in life. It is totally plausible that James wanted to stop using drugs and wanted to not be homeless anymore, and then had a moment where he decided he didn't want to follow through with that and wanted to leave and try again the next time. That is very normal. And I really believe, I know we have listeners who work in different types of social work and services that will probably confirm this. This is normal. That doesn't mean it's okay to force him to follow through. That's not best practice. That's just not what we do. Like, I know that people like you and me can look at James' situation and think we know what's best for him. We even have evidence on our side of what would be best for him. It is better for people to not be addicted to things, and it is better for people to have a home to live in, empirically. But just because you're empirically right does not mean you get to make somebody else do something, even when you know that it is best for them.
Yeah, I mean, you also can't involuntarily commit drug users, especially if you're not a medical professional and you don't have a medical background. If you're just like an ex-cop and a bunch of people from a church.
What I'm getting at here is that even if we absolve Brittany and Jordan from any kind of planning to make this into a scam and a grift, which is what it turned into, we can still criticize them for being completely unprepared to actually help James and inserting themselves where they were neither helpful nor truly wanted in this scenario. So the whole point of keeping him in this hotel room is that they were waiting for a bed in this highly reviewed, super special rehab program, right? And that's what all the GoFundMe money was supposed to be for, right?
What was it actually for? Tell me.
Well, it turns out that the program they were talking about is free.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So then they changed their story real quick and they said, oh, actually, this program is free. You just misunderstood us. We're holding all of this money for him in a trust. So when he graduates this rehab program, he can get a job, he can get a place. We're going to hold on to this money because he is a person who suffers from addiction. We're going to administer the money for him. It's money for James. It's all going to go to James.
Okay, but that's also super messed up because, I mean, like, even when James was using drugs and he was broken, he was homeless, having money was never the thing that kept him from using drugs. And Brittany and Jordan don't have power of attorney or like conservatorship over this grown man. He cannot be in the position of every time he wants to get Taco Bell, he has to go and ask Brittany Dawn if he can go get Taco Bell, if he can have like $11.50 to get Crunch Wrap.
People who have done 30 seconds of research are aware that drug use causes homelessness, but equally so, homelessness causes drug use. And it's really unhelpful and reductive to simplify that to one or the other. But Brittany and Jordan are, in response, just taking away his agency and treating him like a child. And James' misfortunes in life and hard times in life are being used as content fodder. And then after all of that, they just never gave him the money, actually.
Oh my God.
So James' sister, somebody potentially more qualified to be a power of attorney and help James get established in life again, got involved with this whole affair. She wanted to help out Brittany and Jordan and help her brother. And she was excited about, these famous people with a lot of money are trying to help my brother. That's great. So when James got released from rehab, suddenly neither James nor his sister could get in touch with either Brittany or Jordan.
I mean, she's like the Kmart version of the family from The Blind Side.
Reportedly, James got $6,000 in the end, and nobody really knows what happened to the other $19,000 except for Brittany and Jordan. And this actually led directly into the next thing I want to talk about, which is Jordan's Save the Children in Afghanistan grift.
Oh, dear God.
So the reason that Jordan couldn't be reached when James got out of rehab was that he was supposedly in Afghanistan saving children. This is at the time when the U.S. military was pulling out of Afghanistan and things were really chaotic over there. And Jordan allegedly went over as a volunteer with the Freedom Shield Foundation to rescue people who would otherwise get forced into like a human trafficking situation because of the upheaval in Afghanistan, to like go save women and children who would otherwise end up in a bad situation.
Right. Yeah, because the Taliban was taking over.
Friend of the pod, Jen at Fundy Fridays, did a really good deep dive into the Freedom Shield Foundation. It's one of those organizations like Operation Underground Railroad, the people that made the recent QAnon Save the Children movie. They go in and cause trouble in foreign countries and maybe every once in a while accidentally help somebody in the process. and cosplay Navy SEALs for their own ego.
So it's just like disaster tourism.
Yeah, basically. And just like, oh, I get to feel good about myself and put, his pictures up. Notably, Brittany was potentially posting pictures of Jordan when he was also in Afghanistan. She could have scheduled those posts ahead of time, so it's not proof. But what it does show us is how, like, whether or not she was faking pictures of him, I think it does show that they take this really seriously and they really think they are the good guys saving the world. People who are involved in this kind of thing are really, really, really into this kind of thing.
Well, it's a LARP. I mean, isn't it? It's just like...
Yeah. I'll find I read a good article about Operation Underground Railroad, and I'll link that in the source post for this episode.
So we need to talk about Brittany Dawn's ministry, She Lives Freed.
Yeah, we sure do.
I've linked you an article. It's written by Kelsey Weekman for BuzzFeed News. It's from like a year ago, I think. And she attended one of Brittany Dawn's Christian retreats. I linked you this article. I want to know what you think of it.
I definitely want interested listeners to go read that article if you haven't read it. Of course, we'll link it, but the title of the article is, I went to former fitness influencer Brittany Dawn's conference and I guess I understand her now. The subheading is, fellow attendees told me they were ready to, quote, get wrecked. And we'll get to getting wrecked. When Brittany took her turn into, like, reverse heel turn into Christian influencing, she was attending this church, and I believe she still attends there. The church is called Mercy Culture Church, which is a large church with campuses in Fort Worth and Waco, soon to open a Dallas campus as well. Very typically of a mega church, they have very little on their website about their actual beliefs, which always really annoys me. If you click on the page that you think is going to be about beliefs, they talk about like their principles for leadership, some of which are kind of okay. Like, we expect our leaders to lead our people in a healthy lifestyle, which means taking rest and actually having days off, which is a notable departure from like IFB fundies. That's an okay thing to say.
That's not what Hillsong did.
This is a very Hillsong-esque church, so I'm not sure if I believe it. They say a lot of things that are okay. Like they say on that same main page that they affirm women in leadership in church. Now, they don't have staff listed on their website either because they claim to be a church that is about God and not about any singular person. Therefore, they don't have like a lead pastor. I did check out their groups pages to see if I could get any names for people who are leadership at this church. I did notice that none of the groups that I found were led by a woman working solo, only by husband and wife teams or by men working solo.
Oh, so it is like Hillsong.
But they say that they affirm women in leadership in church. They seem to be a charismatic or Pentecostal type church, although I could not tell if they're formally affiliated with a denomination. So they say some stuff that like sounds good, but very suspicious. They also say stuff that's very cringe, like this quote from their website. We celebrate and embrace the Jewish culture, the God of Israel. They also encourage everyone to take a, quote, Sabbath every week, which they interpret as a day of rest, but you can pick like any day throughout the week is what they seem to be saying.
I don't take issue with that.
Yeah, resting is good. We don't have to culturally appropriate to do it, but like having a day of rest in your week that's a good idea. I think that's fine.
You know what? If they want to culturally appropriate us so that the people who are attending their church don't get... What was the name of that young woman at Hillsong who had to scrub toilets for 48 hours straight or something?
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Yeah, there was... they can appropriate our culture if they want, as long as it prevents them from making people do that.
So they say stuff that's like, okay, they say stuff that's cringe, and then they say a lot of stuff that is varying levels of So they have 8 housed visions for their church, which is what they call ministries. They call them housed visions. The website says they have 8, but there are actually 9. Somebody hasn't updated the website. So one of them is a worship team. That's fine. One is a sports league, like kids, like T-ball sports league. That's fine, I guess. One is Axel Creative Co., which exists, quote, exists to equip and empower sons and daughters to advance the kingdom of heaven through their creative expressions. I have no clue what that means.
Is that like worship band?
It's a creative company. What is a creative? I don't know.
It could be
It's like a collective.
filmmakers, could
It's like
be
it's like a
musicians.
filmmaking and worship music and art collective, design collective. I have no clue what this means or how it possibly works.
Maybe it's just that like every time, like, I mean, they keep building new buildings or they keep like opening new branches. Maybe they just want to keep the creative and design staff for all of their stuff in-house.
Like if we need graphic design from the church, we're going to pick somebody from this group.
Exactly.
So they also have the Presence-Driven Church Network, which is like a support network for churches who want to be a presence-driven church. This is not super highly problematic. Then there is Justice Reform, which is yet another anti-sex trafficking group. I have a lot of criticism for Christian and especially church-based Christian anti-sex trafficking groups. It's not because your heart's in the wrong place, because of course your heart is in the right place with wanting to help people. But these groups tend to focus on implausible situations and ignore unhoused LGBTQ youth who are some of the most at-risk people in the world to get human trafficked or sex trafficked. This particular group, Justice Reform, does get very reluctant points from me because they are actually building shelters for people escaping sex trafficking. That is an actual tangible need, and actually doing something tangible that has the potential to actually help someone rather than make their situation worse is much better than some of these other groups do. So that one I'll give a could be worse.
A lot of these Christian, like anti-sex trafficking groups, they tend to look for the perfect victim rather than all of the people who need their support and who might not necessarily fit into who they think of as somebody who is in need of their support.
Yes. They are, a lot of them, I genuinely think have good intentions, but a lot of them really miss the mark when it comes to actually helping people. They'll either add work to an area that is way oversaturated, like stranger kidnapping, for example, which is, of course, a real thing that happens, but way, way more rare than we think it is. And they'll put out statistics like 1 million children go missing every year in America, and there are not 1 million children born every year in America. If it were true that 1 million children go missing every year, you would not know any children. They'll put out bogus statistics, or they'll put out statistics about children who are kidnapped, but not clarify that almost all kidnappings are done by a close friend or family member of a child. So and they'll oversaturate, this area of stranger kidnapping, which is an incredibly rare thing to happen, and completely ignore, like I said, unhoused LGBTQ youth who are actually the most at-risk demographic.
In order to pay attention to them, you'd also have to affirm them, which...
Right, and we just can't have that. The other four housed visions get more and more problematic. So they have a private school, they have preschool through 12th grade at their private school, and they also have a spiritual leadership school, similar to Bethel's unaccredited Serve Us and Pay Us For It college. Is that Bethel or is that Hillsong? It's probably both. Then there is Distinct, which is like Christian B&I. It is a Christian networking group for small business owners. They have worship services for small business owners where you can network with other small business owners. And the church offers to provide, quote, spiritual covering by praying for your small business. And they have like build your business continuing education for small business owners that is Jesus-based. This is weird as and
this seems like some Dave Ramsey, but like business rather than personal finance.
Yeah, I do not like that. The last one is called For Liberty and Justice, which is a group that promotes, quote, godly candidates for local government.
Oh, I know what that means.
Yeah, well, the picture that Mercy Culture chose for this ministry tells you everything you need to know. The main picture that they chose to represent this ministry on their website is of a man marching with a sign reading, We need education, not indoctrination. Remove CRT.
If you get rid of CRT, then nobody will know what Jordan did. You have a guy who goes to this church who literally beat the shit out of a black dude while he was a cop, and he goes to the church that says we don't like CRT. It's pretty on the nose, man. If the boot fits, get to step in.
This church is like really, really slick with their website design and like looking super trendy. And I was a little surprised that that was the main picture they chose for a housed vision of their church. But Brittany's She Lives Freed conferences are not actually related to Mercy Culture. She, as a Christian influencer, has just decided to run her own ladies' conference sort of thing.
I read the article that was written by Kelsey Weekman for BuzzFeed, where she attended one of these conferences. I'll tell you know what it really reminded me of? I was really reminded of everything that you told me about the high pressure tactics that were used at youth conference, summer camp, all those IFB events, where they would get you hyped up, you attend this marathon event, and the energy is crazy, and at the end you get pressure to make a decision.
She Lives Freed throws basically ladies' conferences with Christian vendors, worship services, and sermons and Q&A with Christian influencer women in the general Pentecostal charismatic vein. It's extremely performative and Instagrammable and charismatic and aesthetic. At the conference that the BuzzFeed reporter attended, people were baptized in the Spirit and received their prayer language, which is generally Pentecostal or Pentecostal-leaning code for speaking in tongues. Brittany Dawn also baptizes attendees at these conferences, either in a horse trough or in bathtubs in hotel rooms, and she declares people delivered from witchcraft and depression, among other things.
I'm pretty sure she can't do that.
In this church, I mean, you remember Morgan, right? From Morgan, Paul and Morgan.
Yeah. Oh,
when she got delivered from whatever her mental health issues are. And also, like, when she didn't claim the spirit of infertility and, like, I won't speak that into my life. Like, Brittany Dawn is into all of that kind of stuff.
I would like to read a quote from this article. Kelsey Weekman refers to Brittany Dawn as Brittany Dawn Davis, when I think at the time that she wrote the article, her name was Brittany Dawn Nelson by that time. This is a direct quote from the article that she wrote. It is extremely similar to the kind of spirituality that is in vogue on TikTok right now, a mix of Christianity combined with New Age vibes, manifesting, and a large number of conspiracy theories. Brittany Dawn's pivot to this brand of Christianity suddenly made sense. I had always wondered why she didn't use her past as part of her message, and then I realized that it wasn't necessary. Davis's posts about Christianity aren't formal. She hasn't attended seminary school, and she only somewhat uses religious texts. It's more of an aesthetically pleasing guide to happiness that encourages supernatural encounters and affirmations. Her Christianity brand is digestible, social media friendly, and easy to share with others. And the women I met seemed thrilled to share it with her. Weekman, I think, put it very well, that this is very much a a Christianity that's like made for the social media era.
Yes. But because of the stuff that we Google for this podcast, we get unusual social media ads. So many, like, I also get a lot of self-help and motivational stuff on Instagram, no matter how much I try to block it, because I don't need that. That's not for me. So, or the ones that are getting advertised to me are not for me anyway. So all people who are trying to sell self-help stuff on Instagram, and a lot of people who are trying to sell regular old products and services on Instagram, come at it from this idea of like, you do this one thing and you'll be healthy. It's like if you see in magazines at the grocery store, eating this one food a day will help you lose 50 pounds this summer. It's that. It's low effort, one small change, incremental and exponential results. And this one thing is the one missing thing in your whole life. This particular brand of Christianity fits so well with that. Oh, you just do this one thing and do this one plan, and then everything will work out in your life, because this brand of Christianity is all about like manifesting and speaking into existence and the power of your words and the power of your prayers and demonic activity that's fighting you, and all you have to do is stand firm against the devil and everything will fall into place. And somebody like Brittany Dawn is the perfect person to shill it, because whether you enjoy her aesthetic or not, she is good at curating it and she is good at cultivating it.
It seems to me that Pentecostal is the branch of Christianity for you if you used to be really into like astrology and tarot and witchy before you found out that astrology and tarot and witchy were satanic. It's like just vibes, but you make it about Jesus. But it makes sense that it's for social media because everybody, like, you see all sorts of people talking about manifesting on social media. And
yeah, there is absolutely a connection here because Brittany has spoken out on TikTok about demonic portals such as yoga, astrology, manifestation, and Lady Gaga. But she has also continued to talk about manifestation and just attach God's name to it, and that makes it okay.
I think it's funny that she's like, Lady Gaga is demonic, when earlier she was like, Lady Gaga looked flawless. By the way, look at my body. Even I can do body positivity. Even body positivity is for hot people. Like
well, that's when she was under control of Satan, obviously. Which means that nothing she did at that time can be held against her because she was under the control of Satan. And now she's a Christian and she's changed.
I think, though, that this brand, like we discussed last week when we were talking about toys that were banned, fundy toys, is that this brand of Christianity is especially susceptible to conspiratorial thinking because adherents are told that if they get a strong conviction about anything, then that is a message from God, when literally it could, in fact, just be their personal prejudice, and it could be their anxiety. It could be them like catastrophizing situations in their mind, and then they give into confirmation bias and say, well, this is a message I'm getting from God, and the evidence I see in front of me supports that. If you combine this with the biblical literalism and the end times beliefs in the book of Revelations, that's like a full QAnon cocktail where basically every Q believer is a truth finder, and they're also a prophet. And if all the evidence says the opposite of what you believe, then that's more proof that you were right, because God would not be convicting you of something that so clearly flies in the face of reason if that thing were wrong. In February of 2022, Brittany Dawn was sued by the state of Texas, as we said before, for deceptive trade practices. The suit was based on evidence that she promised personalized meal plans and workout plans, as well as one-on-one fitness coaching, but then these services were not delivered. The state of Texas sought damages of between $250,000 and $1 million. In June of 2023, Brittany Dawn settled this lawsuit, agreeing to pay $400,000 in damages. And since then, she's spoken about the settlement, and the language that she's used has been very much like, I made a mistake, or like, I messed up, or I let things get out of hand, like, oops, I did a boo-boo.
Right. And she also missed deadlines for discovery throughout this process. The whole thing has been her trying to pretend it's not happening and only referencing it. If she ever references it online, it's like, oh, demonic attacks or the works of the enemy trying to bring me down. Brittany positioned herself as a fitness expert when she really didn't have anything that other people don't have, especially not any kind of training to help people in recovery from eating disorders. And now she is presenting herself as a redeemed sinner and an expert on Christianity, despite having nothing that other people don't have other than a pretty aesthetic. And as the reporter for BuzzFeed News pointed out, Brittany is using Christianity as an excuse for everything she has done previously in her life. When she was asked at the She Lives Freed conference to speak on her feelings about being canceled online, she said, "You cannot cancel what God has called." It's a grift, and it's going to keep being a grift until it's unprofitable and she finds the next one. Because this is what scammers do. They jump from community to community, especially online, until they bleed one community dry and then they move on to the next. And I guarantee if the Christian grift fails for Brittany Dawn, she will move on to the next thing. There will be something else. It'll be police officers' wives, or she'll get deeper, way deeper into the Freedom Shield Foundation stuff, or there will be a next thing, because this is what scammers do. And because right now she has just hit on the perfect thing to excuse what she did 5 years ago and give her a break so that she can plan for what she's going to be doing 5 years from now.
I think for me, the thing that speaks louder than anything is when she spoke about she's like, I was given this incredible platform for a reason. And to me, that kind of says everything, in that she believes that she was chosen for something special by God, and therefore whatever she does is something that God has chosen her to do.
That, or that's what she wants her followers to believe, or whether she believes it or not.
Do you think that she believes it, or do you think that she doesn't?
It's hard to say. There's so much hypocrisy because, for example, she talks about all of this about having a kingdom marriage, but she's married to someone who has a history of cheating on and being emotionally abusive to his first wife, reportedly. She's married to someone who has been violent to other human beings in the past, not allegedly, on video, for sure, it happened. She is married to someone who appears to be very tense with her in the content that she herself puts out. And she claims that they didn't have sex or live together until marriage, when there is plenty of circumstantial evidence that makes that appear not to be true. She's on a modesty journey, but she uses her old, extremely revealing and provocative pictures to highlight, like to do before and after posts of how her modesty journey is going. She's against manifestation, but she's fine with manifestation as long as it has Jesus's name on it somewhere. And that's the tip of the iceberg. There are so many instances of her hypocrisy and her apparent complete lack of care for actual Christian traditions. So that makes me think that maybe she doesn't believe it, or maybe she doesn't believe it as much as she is saying. Because I think she grew up middle class in the state of Texas, and she's always been a pretty white girl in the state of Texas. And I think she's probably culturally Christian. Like, her family's probably culturally Christian to whatever extent. She probably grew up in church, and I think she probably does consider herself a Christian. I don't think the question is, does she believe in Christianity? I think the question is, does she believe in it as much as she presents herself to? And that's where I think she's faking. I think it's perfectly plausible that she is a Christian and believes in God. I do not think she believes it to the extent that she portrays it online.
I think that's probably pretty accurate. If I look at one thing that has remained consistent throughout everything that we've looked at, there is a thread of personal insecurity, in that I think that a lot of the more performative aspects that we see out of her from Christianity, or from the way that she practices Christianity, the more performative aspects of that come from her not feeling like she is a good enough Christian, because she knows that she lived with her husband before they were married, and because she knows that she did these things wrong, and because she knows that if she ever, and she's so public in the public eye, and so much of the public eye that's viewing her views her so negatively, she knows that she can never actually truly be herself in front of all of those people, and that's why she behaves like this. I see a very strong thread of insecurity that goes between all of those things from the start until now, and that she hasn't dealt with that.
Well, the way she's always dealt with insecurity is by monetizing it.
By monetizing it, and also try to do surface level cures.
Yeah, because a decade ago, she was insecure about the way that her body looked. So she worked out to change the way that she looked, and then she monetized that transformation. And now she's insecure about the bad things she has done. So she's become Christian as like a quick fix for that, and is now monetizing the Christianity.
And I mean, like, in the sense that she has done some truly awful things. Can you imagine if the world started financially rewarding you to a great degree for your eating disorder behavior? Can you imagine that?
That sounds awful. That sounds like a terrible thing to go through.
That's an insane thing and like, people are asking, how did you do that? And she says, well, this is how I did it.
Like, I've come a long way and spent literally almost a decade at this point managing my mental health diagnoses. And I have worked so hard to get to a place of stability, feeling happy with myself, feeling more secure in myself, feeling like I have a handle on things and like I'm, capable of continuing to heal and grow and be okay. And what if it was more financially profitable for me to not heal and grow and continue to be okay? That's scary.
Well, that's how the entertainment industry works, Sadie.
Yeah.
It's everything is monetized. Granted, I think that by now she should have figured out that the common thread with all of these things is not what her body looks like or what she believes or what fitness routine she's assigning to her customers. The common thread throughout all of this is that self-understanding that I think is the thing that she lacks. And at this point, I don't want to say that there's no excuse for not accepting that, but I don't think that not accepting that is an excuse for doing the things that she's done. It may be the explanation, but I don't think it's the excuse.
It's so interesting that this is somebody we know so much about her life from what she posts on social media, and we still have no idea what's going on in her head. It's interesting. I will predict now that she will add a new facet to like what sort of influencer she is. I mean, she's already trying because she's already done this because she has become a foster parent and has posted a lot of content about fostering. And is also trying to get pregnant and has posted a lot of content about struggling to get pregnant and wanting to be pregnant. But she's gonna add mommy blogger to what she's already doing so that that's her backup when the She Lives Freed stuff stops paying out. And then when that stops paying out, she's gonna start doing something else on top of the mommy blogger, foster parent blogger stuff so that she has something else when that stops working out.
Yeah, because she's got Christian, fitness, QAnon.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even touch on the QAnon stuff, really. Do we have anything else that we want to say about her? Are we?
No, I just want to predict that she is going to continue to go from scam to scam, and you will always be able to see her shift into the next thing because that is her pattern, but that is just what online scammers do.
I'm surprised that she never got into the crypto thing. Can you imagine She Lives Freed coin? If Brittany, you can buy Brittany Dawn NFTs. Man, I don't know how she didn't get into that one.
Don't give her ideas.
I mean, NFTs are dead. Everybody knows NFTs are dead. Crypto is, I don't know. People aren't still doing that. Maybe they are. I don't know. You don't hear about it anymore. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode. I think we're talking about J. Frank Norris next week. J. Frank Norris, if you listen to the first episode of our podcast, he's the guy that made the Brain in the Jar story, and we're going to talk about him. He seems really interesting. That's going to be really exciting. That's going to be a lot of fun. If you guys like our show, if you're fans of our show, you can tune into our Patreon, which is patreon.com/Leaving Eden podcast. There is a very extended version of today's episode that is available on our Patreon because we went way, way, way into detail that we just didn't have time to put on the streaming version. You can join our subreddit and our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Eden Exodus, reddit.com/r/Eden Exodus. You can follow us on social media on Facebook and Instagram and Threads and TikTok at Leaving Eden Podcast. Sadie, your social media?
You can follow me on Instagram at Sadie Carpenter Music, on Twitter at Hell Yeah Sadie, and on TikTok at Sadie Carpenter 1.
And you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at GAVRIELHACOHEN. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You have a great day. Bye-bye.
But old rolling river of time healed me in too many days. No regrets, no confusion, there'll be no pollution. I'm so thankful I've decided to change my ways. I'm so thankful I decided